What's up guys, it's Manga Time once again, and I'm here today to bring you my companion video to my review of Bleach 550, Blazing Bullets. Yeah, great chapter as I said before, but I kind of want to, it's not going to be as long this video because the matchups are basically the same as we had for the last three chapters, but I do want to focus a little bit on the beginning of the chapter, Miuri Kurotsuchi versus Askin Naklevar. Now, this is an interesting fight, a really interesting fight in my opinion. So far it's just a battle of wits, really, as a lot of Miuri's battles are, because he doesn't really do things physically. And a lot of people are wondering just what Askin's kind of deal is, like what are his powers? I mean, he's Sturmiter D, and I've been saying ever since he appeared he was Sturmiter the Dimension, because it appears he creates some kind of dimension portal in chapter 543. However, it could easily be the door or the doorway or something like that. But I've kind of inclined to say something else. As a lot of theories have come to light after the chapter was released, a lot of people think Askin's ability is to do with the darkness. He could be the darkness, because if you look at Miuri, he's possibly still standing in Soul Society, obviously because of the light given off by his light suit and his lab. It could mean that he's managed to keep a little bit of Soul Society there. Askin's in there as well, and then just around them is darkness, pure darkness. That's where Vandenreich is. And obviously Miuri catches on to the fact that Askin is trying to lure Miuri into Vandenreich's area. Now, that could mean simply that Askin's power only works in the dark. That would kind of suck, though. It'd just be Araniro 2.0. But I think, yeah, he could have something to do with the darkness. Another interesting one I've seen is time travel. You know, those strange ornaments he wears around his arm. They could be watches. I mean, we haven't really seen them well enough to make a deduction. But, I mean, if he is a time traveller of sorts, they could be watches, and maybe he goes through the doors to go through time, perhaps. That would be really kind of interesting. I think that would be kind of cool. So, yeah, I think it'll be... I'm really looking forward to that fight, actually, and I really want to see where it goes, and just what Askin can do. Yeah, so that's... I don't really know what's going to happen there. That's why it's intriguing me a lot. Moving on to the next bit, it's just Bazby versus Hitsugaya. There's not a lot more to say here. One thing I did pick up on, though, after reading the chapter again a few times, is that Bazby, when he takes his mantle off, that really awesome panel, he's actually wearing his Quincy cross around his neck. And that's interesting, because it means he doesn't need his Quincy cross to use his flames. Unless his Quincy cross manifested his gloves, and his gloves are his spirit weapon. That could always be the case. So yeah, I mean, he looks awesome. He looks really cool in that panel. And also, in case you didn't notice, the armbands he's wearing around his biceps, they have skull and crossbones on them. Yeah, Bazby's a pirate. He's cool. But anyway, speak of Quincy crosses, BG9 doesn't appear to have one, not that we've seen. Of course, if he is actually a robot, maybe he doesn't even need one, so that'd be interesting. However, I'm pretty certain he did not pull that Gatling gun out from under his cloak. So he must have created it. So yeah, BG9 is so interesting. He's definitely my favourite of the three Sturmers we're seeing at the moment. It's BG9, then Askin, then Bazby. Bazby's cool, but he's not my favourite of those three. As for him and Soifon, I don't know, Soifon could be dead, but she could just as easily not be dead, probably more so. Although she has taken a BG9's worth of missiles to the face this time. Something else I want to reiterate that I brought up in the chapter review a little bit is that BG9, obviously, I think he could be the knowledge, because he was able to just instantly kind of, just after seeing her attack him once, he was able to presumably pick up the intricacies of Mukyu Shunko. And he stabbed her through the wrist, which obviously, if you remember, Deicide is important. Urahara telling Aizen that the wrists are the vents of Reiatsu for a Shinigami. So does that mean Soifon's Reiatsu is disabled completely in that one arm? I doubt it, but it could be. It could be. It's really interesting, to say the least, because Soifon's in big trouble, I think. And BG9 is just awesome. As for predictions for next week, I think it's probably going to be much the same as we've had. Hopefully we get a little bit more Miuri versus Askin, maybe get Askin's epithet, and maybe BG9's. We probably won't get both in the same chapter. We might do. As for what Askin's epithet is, I mean, like I said, I've always been vouching for the dimension. Frankly, though, I'd rather it was the darkness now, because the darkness sounds awesome. So I'm plumping for the darkness, guys. I think it's going to be Askin the Darkness. One of the comments of the week actually talks about Askin, so, well, I just told you who the comment of the week was, pretty much. If you know you comment about Askin, it's probably you. But, yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. As for Basby versus Hitsugai could be dead, just as much as he couldn't be dead, pretty much. So I think that's Soifon's definitely got the more interesting situation out of those two. I think she's more likely to survive than... No, sorry, I think she's more likely to die than Toshiro. Although I don't think Toshiro is as big a... Well, I mean, he's still popular, hugely popular, but not as much as he once was. I'm pretty sure the crown of most popular has probably gone to someone like Ulquiorra or someone like that. But yeah, I can see... I would like for Kubo to have the balls to kill him off. I'd love for Toshiro to die. Obviously, Kubo said something about in an interview once that Toshiro had mastered his Bankai. However, when we saw him pull it out against Kangdu, it didn't look much different to me, so I wouldn't be too fussed if Toshiro died, you know. Really, his story's done. Same with Soifon. Her being mate to the Orichi again, that's kind of her done. But I digress. I would like to see Shunsui versus Hashroth. I'm sure everyone would. But I think Kubo's kind of saving that. I'd love to see another Stonemeter, Asnod, Kangdu, Colonel Sanders. I'd just love to see someone do something. Not fussed about the Sword 5 Stonemeters. I couldn't care less if we see them or not, really. But yeah, I would love to see something else happen. I think Basby is going to end up getting a Bankai. Because he's just so prominent. I really think he's going to steal a Bankai of someone. Kensei, perhaps. Because I'm really thinking at the end of the day it's going to come down to Basby versus Rose. It'd be criminal, frankly, if it wasn't. I think next chapter, if Kira is dead, that'll be when we find out, because Basby will say, this burner finger one, that's how I offed your lieutenant, or something like that. I can see that happening next chapter. So, comments of the week. Thanks for your comments, guys, on the video. And the first one is from Xenophobe777. And basically they said, I really want BG9 to be a cyborg rather than a robot. A cyborg can still have genuine human qualities and can truly be alive. A robot, however, lacks true self-awareness and will be less exciting to me as a character. Yeah, completely agree, Like I said, I think he is a cyborg. And you're right, he would be... Well, he'd be a character if he was a cyborg. If he was a robot, he would just be emotionless, boring. However, another reason I think he's definitely a cyborg is because he tells Soifon that he's severely disappointed that he can't use her Bankai against her. That, to me, indicates a level of sadism that, you know, a robot can't really have. And obviously the emotion of disappointment. Because he's obviously sadistic because he wants to use her Bankai against her. He's obviously also arrogant, however, because he doesn't think he'll have to use his Bankai, the Bankai against her. So to me, that denotes emotions that someone who's just a robot simply wouldn't have. So I think we'll get lucky there. I think he'll be a cyborg. But that's why it's called BG9 if he is a cyborg. That's kind of strange. And the second one is from 135 Mike Rules 23, who says, I'm starting to grow fond of Askin now. I would say his D stands for darkness. Yeah, good shout. But I also know maybe the Decipher also. That's interesting. The Decipher, I don't know if it would be that, because it seems that Kubo's kind of going for... I don't want to sound like an idiot here. But it sounds like he's... what's the right word? Nouns, maybe? Nouns? I'm taking English, I should really know this. But like he's not going for adjectives as such, or decipher. To decipher is a verb. I don't know if that would. Well, I suppose to question is a verb. To feed, actually, they're verbs. I mean, to jail is a verb, I guess. But they're all kind of nouns. Decipher, I think it could be that. I think darkness is probably more likely. If you comment again, I'd like to know why you think decipher. I mean, like, what's that going to be all about, and how to use deciphering to his benefit. I'd like to know that. So yeah, thanks for your comments, guys. That's pretty much it for this week's companion video. My question of the week to you guys, simply, what do you think Askin Naklavar's epithet is, and what is his power? Let me know in the comments below, and I shall catch you next week. So until then, guys, see you later.